Good afternoon and welcome to the IvyLearn Content Partners How to Set Up Your Courses with Boat Learning Objects presentation this afternoon. This is Robbie Morse speaking. With me online is Delilah Wilson. Delilah is from Cengage and she is going to walk us through the boat courses. Before we do that, you should be hearing me now. And now you should be seeing my screen. So check the volume level on your computer, make sure the volume is checked up, or you can switch over to the telephone if you need to, or switch back to mic and speakers. If you need to get additional support, you can call the GoToWebinar support at 888-259-8418. You do not need a camera and microphone today. We will be using the question panel to ask questions. So I want you to locate the question panel and send me a question, or just send me a hi, hello. Hi, James. Fantastic. So with that, I am going to now turn it over to Delilah Wilson to do the presentation. So there we go.
Thank you, Rob.
It's all you, Delilah.
All right, thank you. I am sharing my screen, and Robbie, can you see my screen?
I can now.
Okay, perfect. Hi, everybody. My name is Delilah Wilson, and I am with Cengage. And today we're going to be talking about how to set up your Cengage materials for your different boat competency-based courses. You may have heard Robbie mention learning objects. Don't be afraid. If you've taught these courses in the past, you're still going to be using SAM for the boat courses, with the exception of Boat 216, which still uses MindTap. So the actual assignments or assessments, those are all the same. Really what's changed is how that content is delivered to your students via IvyLearn. So we're going to be talking about how you set up your Cengage SAM or Cengage MindTap materials, and it's all through this new platform or interface called Learning Objects. So right now, I am logged into a Boat 105 course, and under the announcements for your different competency-based boat courses, there's typically this announcement here for instructors only. This covers the first part of setting up or activating your Cengage SAM content. So we're going to walk through it today in this training, but if you need a refresher or a reminder, you can always refer back to this tutorial. All right, and again, this announcement is for you as the instructor, so be sure to delete it so that your students aren't reading that announcement. Next, just want to point out a couple of additional resources to you. So as I mentioned, you're still going to be using SAM and MindTap, but the way we delivered that content has changed. So after today's training, if you want a refresher about what's changed, you can always come in here and watch this video. And with this new platform of Learning Objects, there you have the ability to see how your students are performing on certain competencies. Since I don't have any student data in this course today, there is this video right here that you can refer to. So quite a few resources for you as the instructor. Same for your students. This is new for students. So They're going to have to get accustomed to navigating through this course as well. So right before this start here to access Cengage SAM or start here to access Cengage MindTap link, there's this video that students can watch that will teach them how to navigate through this course. All right, with that being said, the first thing I would do as an instructor who's first opening this course is to pair my Cengage SAM materials. And in order to do that, I need a course key. So that course key is listed in that announcement that I showed you. It's hyperlinked in a Google Doc, but we've also placed the course key directly in this instructor resources area for you. I'm going to go ahead and grab that course key, and that video that talks about the pairing process and the announcement, it tells me to locate this start here to access Cengage SAM link. So this is where my Cengage, or actually this is where all of the modules, with maybe the exception of like a final module or pre-module, just depending upon the course, a majority of the modules all lie behind this link here. So as you can see for this Boat 105, it tells me that this is for modules 1 through 10. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that link. Now it opens up in a new frame for me as the instructor. We'll be talking about the student side a little bit later, but first we're going to talk about pairing. All right, so when I first come in here, the first thing I want to do is click on this little hamburger icon right here. And when I click on that icon, it reveals this content page for me. So this is where I can go to access all of the modules or content for this particular course. So as you can see, this is the difference in what's changed from last semester or previous semesters. All of the modules are now within this frame here. Now, in the past, when you guys are going through the pairing process, you would look in the instructor resources area in IvyLearn. Well, now you're going to look for the SAM homepage and reports, or MindTap homepage and reports. It's going to be in this list of activities. So you still have access to the SAM or MindTap homepage. You still have access to the ebook. The only difference is it's now all contained within this area here. And I recognize that you guys are on mute. So as Robbie mentioned, if you have questions, feel free to type them in the chat window. Robbie's going to be monitoring that chat. And that way I can stop and answer the questions where appropriate, as opposed to waiting until the end of the presentation. All right, but let's talk about pairing. So in order to pair, it's just a matter of clicking on any SAM or MindTap link. When you do that, it's going to prompt for you to pair your materials. So if I wanted to, I can click on the ebook, but instead, just because this ebook link isn't available in all courses, I am going to go out to this pre-module content. This pre-module content, it contains a training and an exam, and these are my regular SAM trainings and exams. I'm going to go ahead and click on one of these to launch it. As you can see, it opens up in a new window. So just like as before, you want to make sure you're allowing for pop-ups. Otherwise, this page will be prevented from opening. At this point in time, I need to sign in with my Cengage username and password. If I can't, your username is typically your Ivy Tech email address, unless we made some type of exception for you. But 9 times out of 10, it's going to be your IvyLearn email address. If you forgot your password, you can click on Forgot Password. Some of you have been creating new accounts if this is your first time using it, and it takes a moment to get your account validated. So you can always reach out to your Cengage sales rep to expedite that. But I already have an account, so I'm going to go ahead and click Login. When I do that, it recognizes my Cengage account, and now it's going to take me to that page where we do the pairing process. So if you can recall, when I was in IvyLearn, I grabbed that course key from out of the instructor resources, and this is where I'm going to enter it. I'm going to enter that course key under this copy from a colleague. I enter in my course key, I click verify. So that course key is extremely important. Be sure to use the course key that's in the instructor resources, because this is going to ensure that you are setting up the correct SAM content. From here, I need to just put in my course name. I like to be very specific in my course name, so I typically grab this course name from out of IvyLearn so that everything lines up, or if I'm trying to figure out, oh, which SAM course does this correspond with? So it's the exact same name as my IvyLearn shell. Now, I'm going to go ahead and enter in a start date and an end date for my course. And I'll go ahead and select my time zone. You don't have to put a course number in. It's not required. Only the fields with a red asterisk will be required. And now I'm ready to click continue. The system, it'll think for a moment, and then it's going to refresh, and then it takes me into that SAM activity that I clicked on. So now that I've activated or paired my Cengage SAM content or Cengage MindTap content, anytime I click on any of these MindTap or SAM links moving forward, it's going to take me directly to that activity. So notice if I click on the exam, it takes me to that activity directly. No more pairing. That's just a once at the beginning of the semester for each of your sections. So if you're teaching both 105 and 109, you go through that process once for each section. And I also want to mention that until you pair your course, these links won't work for your students. So if they go out here and click on this link, it's going to say, we're sorry, your instructor hasn't set up this course. So you absolutely have to pair, otherwise your students won't be able to access this content. All right, so we are in the pre-module. When you're navigating through the different modules with the SAM content, I want you guys to get into the habit of using this navigation tool here because you're navigating within this frame here. You don't want to go back to this modules area unless you're trying to get to any of those modules that are outside of what we've placed behind that link. So I know if it has to do with modules 1 through 10, I want to be here, versus my module 11, that's going to be directly within your regular Canvas modules. All right, so I'm going to go back to modules 1 through 10 by clicking on that link to start here. And remember, when you first click into this, it kind of just takes you to this overview page where you're able to see like some student data about like, okay, well, based upon how students are performing on those different activities, who's at risk, or how are my students performing on different competencies? So that's what this initial page is. But to get to my modules, I click on that hamburger and I click on content. All right, so I've been getting some calls and emails from people saying, hey, my modules are missing, because they're looking for those modules here. But what you want to do is go out to that start here area, and this is where you will locate all of your modules. All right, so now you guys know that this is a competency-based course. So that means that students, they have to demonstrate mastery on certain materials before they proceed to the next module. So let's talk a little bit about that. So we're in as the instructor, but you can see these little locked icons right here next to these modules. So this lets you know that these particular modules are set up to where students, they can't enter them until they meet some type of requirement. And if I hover my mouse over this lock, I can see what that requirement is. It says that the requirement is for students to achieve a 80% or greater on that module 1, creating and editing a document assessment project. So if you're teaching Boat 216, it's probably, a different activity because you guys aren't using SAM but I'm sorry, yeah, you're not using SIM, you're using MindTap, but this is where you can see the prerequisite. All right, so since the prerequisite for Module 2 is to successfully get an 80% on Module 1, let's go into Module 1, but instead of staying in this instructor view, let's explore it from the student side of things, and then we'll come back to the instructor side. Now, I'm pausing for questions. Do we have a question? So
the only question that we had was whether or not these both included courses still needed to be paired by the teacher, and yes, in fact, they do. The other thing that I should mention as you go into settings, and if you go to navigation, and then if you enable the bookshelf,
let me find that.
The bookshelf app is so enable and then save. This is your vital source text. So for Boat 114 and Boat 101, which do not have an ebook, this is the way that students will get to their book. So you'll have to enable the bookshelf in order for that to come up. It probably won't work for your section, Delilah, because these have to be picked at the section level. And we've provided a list of sections to Vital Source to enable.
Okay, great. Thank you for answering that, because that question came up for me today with an instructor saying, how do I get to the Vital Source ebook? So Thank you. All right, so we are moving back to the student side of things, and as you know, within the settings area of IvyLearn, you can get out to this student view. So I want to show you guys how your students are interacting with this content due to this new course setup. Now I'm going to go ahead and click on modules area. So students, they have these different introductory resources. So as I mentioned, there's that video that you can watch that will cover what I am showing you all today. So your students, they have something to help guide them as well. And also, this is everybody's first time teaching with SAM 2013. You guys just moved from SAM 2013 for August 2013. The exams and trainings, they're slightly different. So if you want to see how students interact with the training or exam, definitely familiarize yourself with these tutorials. Since today is mostly about getting set up and navigating through your course, we're not going to be spending a lot of time on what the trainings and exams and projects look like. But here are some videos that you can watch that show you and your students how to complete a SAM project, or how to interact with the SAM project. All right, so I'm going to click here as a student to start to access my Cengage SAM material. When students access the materials, they're taken directly to the learning path. So they don't have to click on this hamburger icon. It just takes them directly to all of their modules. I had a comment that I wanted to make, but it will come back to me. So students, they're taken directly to the modules. And as you can see, for the modules that I mentioned that were locked, the students, I can't open this. It gives me that little symbol right here to let me know that, I haven't met the prerequisite. You'll also see that all of these modules are the same color. As I start to click into this content and interact with it, especially for those graded components, there's going to be a little color wheel on here that will start to fill up. So let's access the ebook, for example, which again, this isn't a graded assessment. This is just really a matter of the student opening and launching this activity. So Since I opened and launched this activity, I'm going to just click back and go back to this main overview page. You can see that it checked this off the list. So it lets me know that that's complete. And again, this wasn't anything graded in here. Concerning the modules that contain graded activities or assessment activities, I'm going to just skip this pre-module and go straight to Module 1. Now, when students get to Module 1, they see an overview of everything that they need to do for this module. So I can see that there's a welcome, there is this show what you know activity, and we'll talk about that in a moment. These different activities, we've broken down the content into different learning objectives. So hopefully many of you who are on this call, you've used SAM before. And if you can recall previously, for each module, there was just one training. There was one exam. And it didn't matter if, let's say I'm a student and I already know some basic things, like I know how to change the color of a font. I know how to underline. I know how to highlight. Maybe I don't need to watch the entire, I don't need to complete an entire training in SAM. So we took that into consideration, and these different activities are broken down into different learning objectives. Well, how does a student know which learning objective they should, how do they know that? How do I know that I want to go to objective 2 versus objective 3? That's where this show what you know comes into play. So this show what you know, it consists of multiple choice questions, just depending upon how many learning objectives are in that module. And we're just going to ask the students some basic questions. And depending upon their performance, it's going to say, we recommend that you study objective 2, but you seem pretty competent in objective 3. You don't have to study these materials. Now, these are only recommendations by the system. The students, if I still want to study objective 2 or study objective 3, then I can click into these activities to open them. And we'll do that in a moment. I just want to kind of give you guys the framework. I'm going to keep scrolling down so we can see for this one there are 3 different objective 2, which talks about creating and editing, and objective 3 is customizing options. Objective 4 is determining the appropriate characters. All right, so these are all optional, and everything in here right here is optional, including this practice project, which is your regular SAM project. The only required activity for the student would be this assessment project. This is what they have to take in order to demonstrate mastery in Module 1 in order to proceed to Module 2. And we highly recommend that students take these optional activities because this is what prepares the students for that final assessment. But if I'm a student and I already know all of this content, that student is perfectly comfortable with jumping straight into the assessment and working on the assessment. Now, just like in the past, the assessment projects, these are SAM assessment projects, and the students, they get 3 attempts, and they get 3 attempts. So I submit the project the first time, I get 70%. I go back in, I take it again, I get 72%. Okay, maybe for my 3rd attempt, instead of me just trying it again, maybe as a student, I'll decide, let me go back in and watch some of these trainings. And then they can come in to take that project for the 3rd time. All right, so let's go back. Now that you have an overview, I'm a student. I click on this welcome. And there are some like next and previous buttons directly within this frame that students can click on right here. But in the video that we created for the students, we recommend that they just go back to this overview page. And then that way they can see everything at once. So I saw the welcome, and now I'm ready to click on the show what you know. So it tells me to show what you know. It's just a short little test. I need to get 80% or above on the different objectives, and it's just going to recommend different practice or training materials for me. I click get started. Here are my 15 questions in here that I need to answer, and I am just going to start to put in some different answers. So just bear with me really quickly while I click through all of these options. Trying to get some of them right. Yesterday I didn't do too good, but I was going quick. All right, I'm going to speed this up. Hopefully I got 2 or 3 right. All right, 2 more to go. All right, so I get to the final question. I click submit. It tells me, all right, you got 60%. And so based upon how I did, you can see it gave me this little green trophy right here. It says, great, you know, you seem to have demonstrated competencies and just some basic knowledge about saving and editing and creating and printing documents. But here's some things that you may want to go in and review. All right, so if I wanted to go in to review these Objective 3 materials, I can navigate. So this is just an overview page. So I can either click this next, but I don't want to click next because it's going to take me directly into Objective 2, which is why we've recommended that students, they click back on this Module 1 link that takes them back into Module 1. So from here, you can see it's checked off this Module 1 training and exam for me. And this one, it still has this little read or do kind of icon by it. So it wants me to go in and read or take these different activities. So again, this is just a SAM training and a SAM exam. These are optional. These are study tools for the students to prepare them for that final project. By clicking this training, this should all be familiar to you. And it's, again, slightly different because it's Office 2016. In 2013, the students, they navigated the control bar for the students, it was on the bottom, but now in 2016, it's on this left-hand side, how students can navigate through this. So this is still starting, so I'm just gonna go back because again, the focus is navigating. So now I'm in here, I have come in here, I've partially completed or viewed. So this is all about, are the students viewing these activities? This isn't any type of assessment. So I've done half of them, viewed half of the materials in here, so it marks as well halfway done. And I haven't viewed anything from Objective 4. Let me go back out of Module 1 and go back out to the overall course for all of the modules by clicking on this link here. And so you can see every time a student comes in, they kind of see, okay, this is how I've progressed through these modules so far. I've worked through about half of the materials in here. And since the student hasn't completed any assessment, you can see that this Module 2 isn't unlocked for me. So as a student, when I am ready to work on that final project, and this is the one that would count as far as unlocking the next module, I just come in here, click it, and this is the same, just like in Office 2013. This is a SAM project. Students, they get 3 submissions. They click on download their instructions, and then when they're ready to upload this file, they upload it and submit. Oh, okay, it came back to me. Now I remember the very important thing I wanted to share with you guys. So your students, when they click on this SAM content initially, they're not prompted for any access codes because this is an include ed course. They've already purchased their materials in their cost of their tuition. So the SAM content is just open access. It does not require any type of access codes. You may have also noticed, but I didn't call it out at the time, when I clicked on this content as a student, it didn't prompt for me to log in with any Cengage credentials or create any type of username or password for my found content. We've disabled that account creation for your students in the competency-based courses, so they're taken directly into the content. So as long as you, as the instructor, as long as you have paired this content for the students, they can just go in and click on it, no access code, no account creation. And if they're struggling on how to navigate through this content, refer them back to that video that's in there that shows them everything that we're talking about right now, but probably about 6 minutes as opposed to the amount of time that we're spending, because I'm trying to be way more thorough with you, because you will be hearing from students and you're the one who gets the questions initially. All right, so I'm a student. I've come in here. Now, yes, I opened this project, but I did not submit anything yet. So if I go back to this overview page right here, I'm still locked out of Module 2. I have to get that 80% or above in order to get into here. So what I'm going to do is leave this student view. I'm going to go back to the instructor view, and I'm just going to put a grade into that module, just so that Module 2 can be unlocked. Now, since we're talking about grades, let's talk about how things have changed with this new format of this content for the competency-based courses. Now, you all are accustomed to, in the Canvas or IvyLearn Gradebook, all the students' grades flowing into there. Well, that's changed. Now the students, they only have a final grade from these modules that flow into the IvyLearn Gradebook. So we go to the Gradebook here within this frame. You can see for Module 1, there's a Gradebook column, Module 2, Module 3, and this grade is only for that assessment project. So all the other activities are optional. These are the only ones where a grade is being recorded for the student. So notice, to get to these grades for these individual assignments, I went to this Gradebook here within this frame, as opposed to the IvyLearn Gradebook. That's only going to have one final grade in there. All right, so I just want to get this student out of Module 1, so I'm going to kind of cheat the system and go ahead and put an 82% in here for the student to give them a grade, and then we'll go back into the student side, just so that you can see how once a student submits that project, and if they get an 80% or above, and that's a pretty immediate thing. They're not waiting like a day or something. They submit that project, and then that grade will come into this module for them. So let's go back to my student side. And I just so happen to put an 82% in there, but we'll talk about some different scenarios. So I'm a student. I am going back to my module, and I want to click back on that Start Here area. All right, and when I get to this Start Here area, you can see now for Module 2, it's unlocked for me, because if I go into Module 1, I technically didn't do it. My instructor forced the grade in there for me, but had I submitted that SAM project and I would have gotten the 82%, my score would show up here. And now I am unlocked and ready to go to the next module. And I'm just going to click back on this top area here to go back to that module. Okay, so in the past, for the competency-based courses, your students, they didn't have access to their graded project. So they got a 70% on the project, and they wanted some feedback so that they can get some guidance from you. We didn't have that. Your students didn't have access to the report. Well, now within this module, and this is covered in that overview video for your students. So if they ask you, how do I get access to that? You know, if they haven't watched that video. So in that video, it talks about getting out to the SAM report. And you guys are familiar with this SAM report and homepage. This is where you have been going in the past as an instructor. And we'll go back to this screen definitely as an instructor. But from this reports tab, students, they can click on their reports. And I haven't completed any activities, obviously, because we just started in this course. But students, they would be able to come out, and so if they submitted their project, Module 1 project, one time they would see a button where it says download report or generate report, and they would click on that, and then they would bring up a graded project, which maybe, so let's assume that this was the graded project. So students, they would click on that link to get out to that graded project, and then it would give them feedback. It would say, this is what you did right and wrong for the different steps, and this is what your grade was. And then at the very bottom, it has some feedback for students where they can receive some comments. So now, since they have access to those graded projects all under that reports area, they can get that feedback and not necessarily have to get it from you. And then they can take that feedback. Since they have 3 attempts on that assessment project, they can take that feedback and then come in and try again and submit it a second time. And hopefully by the 3rd time, they have that 80%. So now that I have the 80%, I'm free to go into Module 2, and then I just repeat that same process, okay? I read the overview, I have to show what you know, and just depending upon my performance, I'm going to look at different trainings, and then it's time for me to get to the assessment project. I'm going to leave the student view. We're going to go back to the instructor view. And as far as instructors are concerned, so in the past, you've been looking at the grades within IvyLearn or the grades within Blackboard to see the Gradebook. Again, for those final module grades, those are going to be in this Gradebook area, because these are all of the credit-only activities. Well, what if you want to see how students are doing in general? You want to see some reports on their trainings or those different practice projects. Well, just like the students, you still have access to the SAM homepage. It's under, if we go to this content area, remember here are all of your modules here. If we scroll down, here is that, it's called SAM Reports, but it's basically, as the instructor, I'm going to go out to the SAM homepage. So I click on this link. It takes me out to SAM. I can go to my results for my section. And again, we're kind of running up against the same. I don't have any student data in here, really. Yeah, I don't. Let me see. Yeah, these are all just demo courses, so no student data in here. But as the instructor, just this page right here, nothing has changed from when you used it in the summer. Nothing has changed on this page from when you used SAM for 2013. So if you're already comfortable with how to retrieve student reports in here, then that's the same. As far as this SAM assignments tab, these are all of the, if I click on this SAM assignments tab, these are all of the links or assignments that are linked into this learning path for my students. But if I just wanted to see them, a summary of them directly within SAM, here they are here. I've had people in the past, you've maybe called me, hey, my student, they used all 3 of their attempts for the Module 2 project. They still didn't get an 80%. How can I give them another attempt? Well, for the SAM project, in the past, this is what you've done, and this is still the same thing. You need to come out to the SAM homepage, which you still have access to. It's just in a different place now. And you locate that project. So if I want to give them another attempt on this SAM project, Module 1, then there's this option here to reset the score. I click on that. And again, I don't have any student data, but when you click on this, it's going to show you a list of every student that submitted that assignment. And then you'll see, for example, student 1, you'll see that they took it, take 1, take 2. And if I want to remove take 2, there will be a delete button by that. So I know I'm asking you to use your imagination, but this training is making the assumption that you're already comfortable with SAM. So this reset, that's always been the case. It's just really now a matter of you just getting comfortable with the case that now your modules, they're all contained within this frame here. So since the only one grade is ultimately reporting back to IvyLearn, just keep in mind it's going to be that final assessment project grade. So as students, this particular student took the, got an 82% on Module 1, and that's going to be their overall grade for all of their modules, just this 82%. And ultimately, that's the grade for their overall cumulative average. That's the grade that's going to flow back into the IvyLearn Gradebook. Let's see. Let me go. Probably want to point out a couple of other things. So you may have noticed when we were in this page here, as the instructor, this default page, it takes you to this kind of overview page. And it talks about these at-risk competencies. So if you want to know more about that, since I don't have any student data, as I mentioned, there is a video in here for you to watch. And this is just if you want more information on what learning objectives your students are struggling in so that you can give them some feedback. This video will talk about that. But other than that, the SAM assessments or trainings or projects, the MindTap trainings and ebooks, all of that has not changed. They just now reside behind this content area within this learning object frame. And so that is that. I've pretty much covered everything, Robbie. If there are questions in the chat, or if you guys have questions now that you're just now thinking of and you want to talk about it, then just type them in the chat and I will address those questions.
Please feel free to ask us any questions you might have.
Yeah, I don't even know what I did with the chat box. Oh, I see a question maybe popped up. Oh, no, so Barb, the volume is off. So nobody can ask their questions.
No, the learning path is not in Boat 207. 207 is not a competency-based course. It's a regular online course. So 207 has been published to the Commons, and you can download that into your course. So hopefully that answers that question.
Thank you, Rafi. let's see, the required text and
I'll need to address that in the syllabus revisions. Alf says that the required text and material section of the syllabus makes it appear that a purchase would be required. I believe that we've put some additional language in there indicating that this is an include ed course and you do not need to purchase materials.
So the include ed, they just get the ebook and the access system online. There's no print version available. So this is telling them you do not need to purchase any Cengage course materials.
And Bonnie, you said that you had some issues with the Boat 207 course. If you want to report those through the report course issues button, I'll go ahead and address that.
And I've seen those
CNR.
If I can recall, Robbie, when you guys first moved from Blackboard to Canvas, you said there was about like wiki pages.
Yes, all the content pages are known as wiki pages because you can set the permissions on those pages so that students can edit them if you so choose. The only course that we have in the BOAT program that's statewide online that is not CBE is BOAT 207.
That's concerning the online courses, correct, Robbie?
Yes. Yes, 216 is a CBE course.
Yeah, it is.
Your CBE courses are BOAT 101, 105, 109, 114, 121, 216, 218, and 222. It's really sick that I can do that from memory.
BOAT 201 is not competency.
Oh, 201 is as well. Thank
you. Yep. Robbie, I'm kind of like you. I feel like, wow, this is finally getting stuck in my head.
No, 226 is not.
So, Robbie, maybe that would be do you think that would be a good message for people to know? Like, I feel like this has come up for me before, people asking me. Just maybe a note to say these are the ones that are.
Yeah, I can go ahead and send out a message. I'll send out a message as to which ones are CBE to the faculty, along with the instructions about how to enable the bookshelf. Yes, all CBE courses are include ed courses. And there's been 2 announcements that have been added. There's a student-facing announcement that explains to them that it's an include ed course, and there's a faculty-facing announcement that explains that it's an include ed course, and then there's been some additional language added to the syllabus, which Delilah has up on the screen there. Underneath where the book is listed, it says, "This is an include ed course. You do not need to purchase any materials."
All right, any additional questions? Well,
Cafe is used to describe it as an included course. So it's the schedule attribute that refers to the fact that it's an included course. So your course sections should all have dash cafe at the end of them because we are including that code in the section ID. You're quite welcome, Rob. I hope that this session has been helpful. I'd like to thank Delilah for her presentation of this. And I hope
Robbie, can I add one final thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
You probably noticed, everybody's probably noticed it, but I didn't. I don't know if I pointed it out. Cengage Tech Support. So this is where you and your students can file tickets if you're having issues or questions. The support link no longer resides in the student resources. It's now in this area. So sorry, I just wanted to make sure I emphasize that, Rob.
No, that's fine.
All right, well, that's all I have, Robbie. And if there are no more questions,